It was a kind of lost paradise. There was an old mill that really did grind corn with 2 millers. A great big pond with swans on it, a sandpit, a wonderful dell with flowers, a few old-fashioned village houses, and further away a stream with another mill.
He first came to Birmingham because he was actually born in South Africa in the early 1890s, and he came not far from here in King's Heath, where his grandparents lived. But after a short time his father died in South Africa, so his mother decided not to go back, so they moved to Sarehole, which is the little hamlet by Sarehole Mill, and that was completely rural in those days, and he lived there with his mother and his brother Hilary.
The father was supposed to be joining them, but unfortunately in 1896 he died. So Mabel Tolkien, his mother, decided to look for somewhere to live with the boys, not too far away from the family, in Moseley and King's Heath.
When Tolkien arrived here as a young child, the contrast was quite remarkable. He moved into 264 Wake Green Road with his mother and his brother Hilary, and the area was quite different from where he was born in Bloemfontein in South Africa. There it was hot, dry and dusty and didn't suit his health at all. But here it was green, rural, lots of fields, trees, rivers and streams.
I loved it with an intense love. I was brought up in considerable poverty, but I was happy running about in that country. I took the idea of the hobbits from the village people and the children.
Now Tolkien really enjoyed living at Sarehole because he liked the rural life. He actually said that hobbits actually liked very simple machinery like bellows, water mills, ploughs, hand weaving and stuff like that. He really enjoyed the countryside. He wasn't very into urban development.
Recently I saw in a paper a picture of the decrepitude of the once thriving corn mill beside its pool that long ago seemed to me so important.
A lot of writers seem to see a big contrast between Sarehole and the rest of Birmingham. Sarehole is in the countryside and the rest of Birmingham is grimy and industrial. But that wasn't entirely true. Moseley and King's Heath had a huge number of parks, trees and gardens, and there was a lot of farmland still around when Tolkien lived there.
One writes a story not out of the leaves of trees yet to be observed, but it grows like a seed in the dark, out of the leaf mould of mind. Tolkien would be pleased to find how much leaf mould there is around Sarehole Mill these days.
He was very into trees. He used to draw them, he used to enjoy climbing them, and he had a favourite tree by Sarehole Mill, which was a big willow tree, and he climbed it, he drew it.
What? Shouts old Tom Bombadil, leaping up in the air. Old Man Willow? No worse than that, eh? That can soon be mended. I know the tune for him. Old grey willow man. I'll freeze his marrow cold if he don't behave himself.
Trees were very dear to Tolkien, and all his life he remembered when he was a little boy learning to climb a willow tree, one of the trees by the mill pond. He said one day they just came and cut it down, and they didn't do anything with it. I think that upset him also. He could understand that trees had to be cut down for use, but just to cut it down and leave it there was very upsetting to him. We know he came back in 1933, and he was upset at some of the changes he saw. I think probably again that's because he remembered Sarehole as a very happy time in his childhood, when his mother was well and before all the losses of later life.
The old mill still stands, but the crossing beyond the now fenced-in pool, where the Bluebell Lane ran down into the mill lane, is now a dangerous crossing alive with motors and red lights.
Tolkien visited Sarehole and was quite distressed about the condition of Sarehole Mill, which had become dilapidated after the millers moved out.
Sarehole Mill, when I was a child, was derelict, and it was a really scary place. And in the 1960s they decided to restore it. And one of the people who donated towards the restoration was Tolkien. And they started the restoration work in 1968 and they finished it in 1974. Tolkien and his brother Hilary used to explore the countryside around Sarehole. One of the places they used to go to is what we today call Moseley Bog, though he called it a wonderful dell of flowers. And Moseley Bog was originally the storage pool for Sarehole Mill, but was drained in about 1850. But it started to grow and develop into a woodland with wildflowers and things like that. And this is probably where Tolkien got the idea of Fangorn from. Fangorn is the forest where the Ents lived, and the Ents are tree-like creatures, and there are still plenty in Moseley Bog itself.
Fangorn Forest is a dense, mysterious forest on the borders of the Misty Mountains, and Rohan, the riders of Rohan, describe it as Entwood. And Treebeard was one of the oldest Ents in Fangorn.
Moseley Bog, when Tolkien was there, was the place where the streams came from feeding the mill pond, because the mill was still a working mill then. The old trees in the centre had been there for centuries. There are Bronze Age burnt mounds which are due to be scheduled as ancient monuments. Whether Tolkien knew about those, I don't know, but I think certainly the sense of the ancient woodland, he would have felt that when he and his brother went exploring in that area.
But the forest is queer. Everything in it is very much more alive, more aware of what is going on, so to speak, than things are in the Shire.
And the trees do not like strangers. They watch you.
For they love peace and quiet and good tilled earth. A well-ordered and well-farmed countryside was their favourite haunt. They do not and did not understand or like machines more complicated than a forge bellows, a watermill or a hand loom, though they were skillful with tools.